Welcome to Sunday Sweet Chats. My name is Charles K. Carter, and I'm a queer poet with a new chapbook coming out from Finishing Line Press called Artificial Sweetness. You can pre-order that now at finishinglinepress.com. But that's enough about me. Today we have a sweet guest with us today to talk about some sweet, sweet poetry. Hello, Tate. Can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, Charles. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tate Lewis-Carroll. Um, I am also a queer poet with a book from Finishing Line Press, which is titled What's Left? Handily, I have a copy here with me. Um, it is my debut full-length collection. Although I have done a few like self-published haiku chapbooks. This is kind of, my only book I have so far. I am a Starbucks barista, and I'm the poetry editor of the Ocotillo Review, a biannual literary review. I am also an editor for Callista Gaia Press, which is an awesome little indie press located down in Austin, Texas. Um, I don't. I'm also a farmer, I guess. I should say that.
Oh,
Have a little farm with my wife. We raise chickens. A lot of fun.
awesome. Thank you for introducing yourself. Since the chapbook is Artificial Sweetness and it's the Sunday Sweet Chats, I have to ask everyone, what satisfies your sweet tooth when you have those sugary urges?
Yeah. When you first reached out, I was a little worried because I don't have much of a sweet tooth. Like there's not there's not a ton of sweet things that I go to. Although there are two instances in my life where I have just been touched by something sweet. Is it okay to talk about two
Yeah,
things? Okay. Well, I've had the opportunity to travel a couple times to some very cool places. And the first was to Thailand. My wife and I got to go to Thailand with my family. Actually, it was kind of a big family trip, and we went to this little it was like an artist house. It was housing local artists that were then producing and selling the artwork at the house. So just along this little river. I actually have one of the watercolors that I bought there here.
that's
It was
beautiful.
very cool. It was just a lovely little little scene, little setup. It's just like this two-story shack along the river, and there's a little boardwalk that went out across the river, and just artists sitting about painting and discussing, and they had this little kind of like a little coffee bar. There's like some coffee, and then like if you go to the convenience store or like a gas station, those little freezers that you slide the lid open, you can get like a drumstick or an ice cream sandwich or whatever.
Yeah,
Well, there they had this little like packaged taro ice cream bar, and I've always liked taro and like bubble tea and stuff, so I got one, and it was the best ice cream I've ever had in my life. It was like real pieces of taro, the root, and just slightly sweetened, but it was so perfect, like beating the heat. And then I also, a couple days later, I got pretty sick, um, which was not fun. So my wife went out to a little gas station and just loaded up on those for me. And so I kind of lived off of those when I was sick. That got me through. Um, and the second is my wife and I, who was then my girlfriend, we got to go to Greece together, which is where I actually proposed to her, where we became fiancés. And we went out we went to this little island called Skopelos, which is where they filmed some of the outdoor scenes of Mamma Mia, which was fun to go visit and all that stuff. But it was not like a very touristy place, which is even more fun. It just kind of blended in with the scene, it felt like. But we got engaged out on this little pier, and we were walking back, and there was a couple little restaurants like in the Bay Area. And so we sat down, and we told the waitress our news, and they brought us this little um like little red liqueur and a couple of little like dough balls, or not even like maybe the consistency of like raw cookie dough, like covered in almonds. And we're not big drinkers at all, so we were a little skeptical of it, but you can't refuse a free drink and dessert. But it was the best, the best drink, the best little, like, it was like a cherry liqueur followed by like a little almond dough ball. It was just lovely. And I've tried to recreate it a couple times, but I cannot. And I don't know what type of alcohol it was. I don't know how to figure out which restaurant we actually went to, because we just kind of staggered back already drunk on the on the evening, So I have no idea where we were. So I don't think I'll ever be able to recreate that, but those are my two, like, sweet, my sweet moments.
That's awesome. Those are some cool stories. And I mean, just the like gay theater kid, like Mamma Mia, that's exciting. That connection to that.
I know, right? That was a lot of fun.
And I won't hold it against you that you're not a big sweets person. I mean, I think that's good that we have that on the show too. Not everyone is. Maybe don't watch my second episode because we kind of did. My guest and I don't understand that because we know some people who don't either. And yeah, I definitely have a sugar tooth. But that's enough about sweet food. Or you got something?
Well, I'll start a show about being salty, and I'll have you come on that.
Be like sweet and salty. I like that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right. That's enough about food. Let's talk about some sweet, sweet poetry. You have a poem to read today, and you're going to talk about where that poem comes from.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought I would read a poem from my book, which is titled "What's Left." I want to start too by saying that "What's Left" is a book dedicated or inspired by or all about my father, our relationship, and his eventual death from cancer back in 2016. It was a real unique occurrence, because right when he got sick was right when I was in college, fresh into an English major, learning how to write. I was enrolled in Poetry 201 when he was first diagnosed, and he was dead 6 months later. So they just really gave me an urgency, or a fervor to approach poetry in a way that I might not have if it was just to get an A or whatever. But the poem I chose to read for us today is actually a food poem. I don't write many food poems, but this one was kind of inspired by one of those travels I was just telling you about. I just thought this might be a good venue for it. It's a quick one too, so maybe if there's time I could read it to you twice.
Yeah,
We'll
you
see.
could read it twice, or if you want to read a second one, go for it if it's a short one.
Okay. Well, it's titled "Olive Oil with Balsamic." Bottled within an inseparable duality, staining and spreading when tipped, then obedient again when righted. The lightness rises as underneath the darkness settles.
Thank you. That's really great. I can picture it.
Thank you. Thank you. Just, I was very in the mindset at the time, for the last 6 years or however long it took to actually write this book, of my dad was everywhere. He was in everything. He was around me everywhere. And really, at the end of writing this book, I got kind of sick of him being around so much. And if you read the book, you'll see which poem I'm talking about. But so I saw a bottle of olive oil with vinegar, and just there he is. There we are. That's just kind of that poem came to me very suddenly and quickly, and just kind of fell out of me, which is such a fun feeling when that happens.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but it's very rare that happens, very occasionally, but when it does, it feels wonderful. And it's like, this is great right away. A lot of times I feel I need more work, or it needs to work, or go through those rounds of revision and stuff.
Definitely. That happens to me frequently, but rarely are any of them ever any good. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was a great poem. Would you like to read another one or no?
Sure, I can read another one. Actually, how about I read this one? So I I casually kind of at the beginning of the show came out and said that I too am a queer poet, which I am, but that is very still new to the public. I think I've known for a long time, and those who are closest to me have known for a while, but I'm trying to be better about being more open about it. And so this particular poem, I was playing with that idea a long time ago, and I think even I didn't quite know what I was talking about or feeling at the time, but now I look back at it, I can see, that's a little queer, you know. But it's called Nullapara, which for those who may not know, it's an animal or a person, usually always female, who cannot give birth for whatever reason. And it begins with a epigraph from a Sharon Olds poem that reads, "At the end of his life began to wake in me. I carry my father now, inside my lungs, where he dreams and kicks and scratches with new fingernails. With every labored breath from that womb, a heat slicks my sinuses and tongue with steam. I choke on his name, but exhale nothing. When will I finally breathe for myself again? Boyish bodies are not built for life. Our flesh never stitches together more hungrier flesh. No dormant milk ripens around our bulk of bones. How will I ever deliver or abort?"
I love that. That's great. Yeah, great expression of trying to identify with gender and sex and how all that connects. And I liked you made me think with your introduction to the poem. Talked about like pondering and like looking back and like seeing signs. Do you ever see that with your poetry? I see that a lot. Sometimes I'm like, I'm just playing around. This is just a persona poem. It has nothing to do with me. But then I look at it a year later and I'm like, oh my God, that's the shit I was going through exactly. Do you have that happen with you?
Yeah, I think so. I try to keep like a journal diary. It's usually just I record my life through haiku, that kind of things. But I'll go back and read through it and be like, ooh, I was having a bad day. Or ooh, I was pretty gay that day, that kind of thing. Definitely. It's fun to kind of put yourself out there, if only to get to know yourself later. Not just show people, but just to kind of have it for yourself. That's one of the fun things about being a writer, is that you can kind of freeze yourself or an idea or a moment, or just pause it and return to it later and kind of replay it and come back to it with more experience, or God forgive less experience,
I think that's very beautifully stated and very true. I
Thank you.
find that the past couple of years I've really been struggling with my mental health and been in therapy and trying some different things to process and some trauma that's led to my state of being. And I think my poetry, whether I think of it actively in the moment, is part of that. It is, even if it's just slow. It's not immediate. Writing that one poem doesn't magically solve everything, but writing it and setting it away and looking back at it, like, I don't know, it helps those wheels turn and process a little bit. And I think that's great and beautiful thing about poetry.
Me too.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
I don't think so.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, Tate. It's been a joy. It's been a sweet treat to have you. My name is Charles K. Carter, and I hope to catch you next Sunday for another episode of Sunday Sweet Chats.
Thank you for having me.